Hey everybody, you're watching Cadroll Hunter. I am super excited. I just picked up some silver coins below melt, but have a look. We've got some commemoratives and some really old stuff. I'm super excited to see if I got a great deal. If any of these are worth more than melt, I already got a great deal, but can there be any gems in here? Stay tuned. Hey everybody, this is James and you're watching my channel Cadroll Hunter. I love picking up silver, but I love even more picking up silver below melt. And even more than that, when I can get some really old silver below melt. Typically, old Canadian silver is almost always worth more than melt, significantly more than melt. Silver prices have gone crazy. I'm gonna pull this out because this is really exciting to me. And so it's even harder to even value what a silver coin is now. You can see here's a 50-cent piece from 1916 in the junk silver bin. This is pretty awesome. Now check this out. If I check out my Charlton catalog in 1916, even in a G4 condition shows it's worth $13. But bear in mind that at the price of silver right now, there's $22 plus of silver in here. So I think that the value of all of these coins, especially in the higher grades, is going to be up from there. This is assuming a silver price at less than half, I think, of what it is now, because silver has more than doubled in this last year. It's really crazy. So in this box and in this cup here, there was $35.65 in face value, and I picked this up for $1,300. That's just in face value of the silver. So that is paying $36.47 per every dollar in face value. Now I've pulled up the CoinApps website here where you can calculate the value of Canadian silver coins. And today, silver is back up pretty much to all-time highs, $75.21 an ounce Canadian. So $1 in face value is $45.13. So I already got a deal. Even if this was all just, newer scrap, 1963, 64, 65 kind of thing. But this stuff is old. There are bound to be some things that are worth something in here. And in here, even more, we got some older nickels, I should say 5-cent pieces, silver 5-cent pieces, plus some pennies, tokens, and other things. I really want to start with this stuff in here and see what we've got. I'm super, super excited. Did we find any gems in here? Is there anything that's worth well more than melt? I already got a deal on it. I know that. But are there any gems? That's what we're going to find out. I'm going to dump this out here. We'll start with what is in this container. And it is all old. There's something else a little bit different, but check that out. We got all sorts of old stuff. I just love it. The look and sound of old silver. I think what I got to do is get this organized a little bit. I can see that there are some quarters in here as well. And we got Newfoundland. So it's not just Canada. We got some Newfoundland stuff in here. That's pretty interesting because the Newfoundland stuff is really low mint. Okay, let me get started. We'll just take a quick survey even before we sort this out. It looks like we've got a fair amount of pretty circulated coinage. That's pretty well to be expected. A lot of these are over 100 years old, so they would have circulated pretty well. And but there are some that look to be in better than average condition for their age for sure. And we've got some $1 coins here, 50-cent pieces, and quarters in this bunch. I saw in this little thing over here, we've got the 5-cent pieces and dimes and then other assorted things. So I'm super, super excited about this. Okay, all I've done now is just sorted between countries and denominations. Basically, we've got 23 Newfoundland 50-cent coins. That's pretty sweet, including a really oldie here, 1876, with, of course, that would be Queen Victoria on the other side. That's pretty awesome. We've got 11 Canadian 50-cent pieces here. We got one American. This is a 40% silver, 1966. We got one US Morgan dollar. That's awesome. That's 90% silver. And then we've got 8 Canadian $1 coins. That's a beautiful 1937 on the top here. I haven't touched any of these guys. We'll leave these for now. And then we had one other one that was in that big thing of coins, and this is actually a 1 ounce silver round. Universaro 1 troy ounce 1972. Basically it says, what's this? World Trade 1 troy ounce pure silver, 3/9 fine. I'm going to have to look that one up, but we'll get to that in a bit. I think where we're going to start is with these Newfoundland 50-cent pieces. That is a ton of chunky silver. I'm going to separate these out by year. We'll take a look at what we got. So the two oldest coins we have here are the 50 cents 1876 in this flip. That's got Victoria. It's minted at the Heaton Mint. You can see that little H below Victoria. That's in Birmingham, England. And so anything with an H is Birmingham, England. Some of this Newfoundland stuff has a C, and that indicates that it was minted in Canada. Anything that doesn't have a mint mark would have been minted at the Royal Mint in London. So this is our oldest one, and it's actually got some great detail, but it's got a little bit of damage. There's a little spot underneath the 5 and 50, and you can see there is a bit of a rim hit right here. But this one's actually in pretty good condition. And condition is everything with these coins. Here's the Charlton catalog, and take a look at this 1876 here, 1876H. In a G4, it listed at $30. Now, bear in mind, this is back when silver was probably $35 an ounce, not $75 an ounce like it is right now. In a VG8, it's $65, and in an F12, it's $125. So condition is everything. You can see in a mint state, my goodness, it's thousands of dollars. They're just so rare in those high grades. So whether, how good a deal this is really depends on what grade this actually is. And I think that this probably has fine details, but it's got some damage that's probably going to put it to a VG, really. And if you want some help with that, I've pulled up the coinsincanada.com website, and it has some photo grading, which is really helpful. To find it, it's coinsincanada.com. You go to Canadian coins and then grading, and then you can find the Canadian cents. I'm in Victoria here. I can keep scrolling down, but for Victoria, in the provinces, I can find 50 cent Newfoundland, 1865 to 1900. So that's what we're looking at. I'll pull up a VG8 here, and we'll see that that is pretty worn. But the great thing is that they have a number of different examples that really help you actually sort of see what a VG8 might be on different coins, depending on the condition of the coin. I'm going to get out of this for a second, and I'm going to go to the fine 12 here because I think it's helpful for us to see the level of detail on these coins compared to what we have. See, there's more detail in the hair. And I think if we look at our coin, we've got about that level of detail. So I think we've got fine details, but with some of the damage that's going to knock it back down. But even if we don't try to inflate the pricing and imagine that this is gotta find it here, a $65 coin, that's pretty awesome because I paid about $35 for it. That's a great start. Now this 1894 is not nearly as nice as that last one. You can see it's definitely got a lot more wear. So it's probably a high G or a very low VG, depending on how you want to look at it. Here's the only example they have of a G coin in here. And mine is certainly nicer than that. That one's got some significant damage. This one doesn't really have any of that, but is definitely more worn. Now here's where it gets interesting. So that is an 1894. And if we look at the 1894 here, in a G4 it's showing $16, but what we know is that there's $20, $22 or more of silver in there now. So it's probably worth more than that. It's at least worth melt, but it's definitely worth more. And look at the mintage, 40,000. This is really, really low. That 1876, 28,000 coins were minted. So I love these Newfoundland coins because they're all really low mintage, but they're really approachable in the circulated grades. So finding a coin that's minted at 28,000 or, oh goodness, 60,000 or 40,000, in a junk silver bin is just crazy if you think about it. Once we get past the Queen Victoria years, we've actually got a complete date run of the 50-cent pieces from Newfoundland. Starting with the 1904H, we have 1907, 08, 09. These are all Edward the 7th. There's no 1910, and then we have a 1911. It skips to the 1917C, the 1918C, and the 1919C. That was it. That was the last year for the 50-cent piece in Newfoundland. So we'll take a look at these guys here and see what condition. This one is pretty rough, 1904. You can see that it's already lost some detail there. And if we flip it over, this one has been pretty heavily scratched. I don't know if somebody tried to clean that or what they've done. So it's definitely damaged. That's going to be a cull melt value coin to be sure. But some of these are actually pretty nice. This 1907, I'll flip this over. And we've got a lot of detail on here. This is actually pretty good. This King Edward VII obverse, the high point was really not the rim so much as it was Edward's face. These were really highly susceptible to getting really, really worn. A common coin from this era might have no detail on Edward at all. So the fact that we can see the full band of the crown and a whole bunch of the detail on the sash is pretty considerable. This would actually grade in probably a VF, which is pretty decent. We'll take a look at what that looks like in the catalog here. So a 1907 in a VF, even if it was sort of a mid-range between an F and a VF, like a VF or an F15 or a VF15, whichever that would actually be, it's between a $20 and a $35 coin. Now, bear in mind that I paid maybe $17.50 for it for silver. So we definitely got a better deal than the value, but this doesn't reflect the significantly increased cost of silver. Either way, I think this is probably a great deal. That's a really nice looking coin. Here's a 1908. It's got some tarnishing on it. Got some damage, but again, we can see a lot of the detail that is usually absent. We got a stack of 1909s. And same thing, we got lots of detail on here. Let's take a look at all of them, just see where we all land on this. That one, yeah, some damage on there, but still a lot of the detail. And this one here, the band of the crown is more worn, but these are all better than average, I would say. We typically find these in much worse condition. So that is awesome. The 1911, of course, we get into King George V. This one's pretty worn. Yeah, this is going to be like at best sort of a VG. Here's the 1917. This is great. We got the full band of the crown. This is at least an F. Let's take a look at 18. We got a stack of each of these. Lots of great detail there as well. And a 1919. Probably in a low F, but these are all worth more than melt, absolutely. Again, we look in here, it shows similarly in a VG8 to 16. I think these are all probably closer to an F, so it's more than what we paid for it, but I think their prices are going to go up because the worst of the worst coins right now are worth $20-some just based on their silver. So it's going to push all these better looking coins up across the scale. So we're doing really well so far. Here are all those 1919s. There's a little bit of rim ding on this one, but otherwise the coins themselves are all pretty typical, all maybe in about a VG or so. And so they look on the whole pretty darn good. These are not cull coins. These are not the kinds of coins that you would expect to find in the junk silver bin, particularly at these mintages. Like just in the hundreds of thousands, the Edwards are even less. And of course, those Victorias, even less still. And what's pretty awesome about this is that this is going to fill a few holes in my collection. I don't have the 1876, the 1894, and I didn't have the 1907. This is just minted at 100,000. So this is the hardest of the Edwards to come by. So that's going to fill some holes. I have all of these ones here, but I'll look to see if any of these might upgrade. It is very possible. Here are our Canadian 50-cent pieces. There are a few interesting things to note here. So we got a couple of the Edwards, the 1907 here. Now, what's interesting about this is that unlike most Canadian coinage, or at least modern Canadian coinage, this one is in what we call coin orientation. We flip it like we would flip American coins. So if we flip it top to bottom, Edward is right side up. So that's the 1907. But a little bit later, this is a 1910, pretty worn example of a 1910. If we flip it that same way, he's upside down. This is called medal orientation. So it hangs like a medal. You would rotate it sideways to see the detail. So this 1910 is pretty worn. This 1907 actually looks pretty decent. It's got lots of detail still on there. Now here is the first year of issue of the King George V. This is a 1911. It's really hard to see the date. If I rotate it in a particular way, you might be able to see it. And this shows some signs of cleaning. I can see some scratches across the surface here, but if you weren't sure there, I can see with the light better, it's a 1911. If you weren't sure of the date of this one, you can tell but for sure by looking at the obverse, because this was what was known as the godless coin. When these King George V coins came out, the obverse legend omitted Dei Gratia, by grace of God. So it just says George V, King and Emperor of India, and there was some public outcry. According to the Charlton Catalog, I wasn't around to see it, but I understand the public was pretty upset that it omitted the reference to God. So for 1912, and we have an example here, actually this is 1913, but in 1912 they added Dei Gra, the short form for Dei Gratia, by the grace of God. So we have here an 11, 13, 16, 17, 18, and a couple of 19s. This one here looks to be pretty damaged. It's got some holes on it. So that is in pretty rough shape, but lots of great stuff. I don't have all of the years here. The ones we're missing in these years are the 1914. That would be the key date. And in the Edward years, the 04 and 05 are key dates. They're minted at just 60 and 40,000 each. And you can see that the prices, even for a G or a VG, are pretty significant. We didn't get those. The last one up here is this 1937. This is actually a beautiful looking coin, but I see some signs of cleaning. We'll take a closer look under the scope. Here it is under the scope, and you can see there's lots of great detail, and the fields look pretty clean. Like there's no real scratches. We don't have a lot of circulation wear. I'll flip this over. We can see a little bit more in the fields on this side. The king's face particularly is more exposed. There is a valuable variety in the 1937, and that is the 1937 matte finish. It was just in mint sets, so it would get a specimen designation in an SP63 or an SP65. It's $200 to $300. It's actually worth less than a circulating version because the circulating coins are harder to find in higher grades. This looks really good, and I just don't know if you can see the scratches. I can just sort of see some microscopic scratches on the surface of the coin in the light. It's hard to see on camera. I suppose while I'm editing this, I'll see how it looks on the screen. It's still a beautiful looking coin though. 1937, first year King George VI 50-cent piece. There's one more that I missed, and I'd have to take a little bit more time to try to see if I can find the date. You can see that it's really heavily scratched just in the date area, and I wonder if somebody was trying to, in a very misguided way, clean this coin to try to see more of the detail. I think it's either a 1919 or a 1929. Either way, it's pretty heavily damaged. What I'm hoping is that it's not a 1921, because a legitimate 1921 would be worth tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars that are really, really scarce. I recently did a video on a fake 1921 50-cent piece that a subscriber of mine came across. This isn't it. This one has the sound of genuine silver and definitely is quite well circulated, but we might never know. It's not going to matter. It's certainly not a key date anyhow, and it is in pretty worn condition. But again, I bought it for less than the value of the silver, which is awesome. All right, I've laid out the $1 coins. This is pretty cool because we've got some commemorative, some of my favorite designs here. And so we'll start here. This is the 1935, and this is the first year of issue of the Canadian $1 coin, 1935, and it's a commemorative. This shows King George V. It's the only year they used this obverse here. George V, King, Emperor, 25 years of reign. So it was commemorating his 25 years on the throne. Interestingly, they didn't call this the godless version because it omits also that part of the legend that refers to God. Interesting. But it's got lots of detail. It's definitely got some evidence of tarnishing. I don't know that it's been widely circulated. It's not completely uncirculated, but it looks pretty nice, and you can see it's got lots and lots of detail. That is a beauty. This next one here, this 1937, another good looking coin. It's got something on the reverse side here, but not a lot of wear. This is probably an uncirculated coin. It's got all the detail. It's maybe been handled by collectors like myself, but it doesn't seem to have been circulated. This one's pretty low mint. This one, the 1937, if I go into the Charlton catalog, 241,002. And so that is pretty cool. You probably saw as we were skipping through here some coins that are quite valuable. The 1945, 1947, you can see these hundreds of dollars. And of course, the 1948, worth thousands of dollars. We didn't get any of those, unfortunately, but we did get some other cool stuff. This is the 1939. It shows the Canadian Parliament buildings in Ottawa. This was a commemorative for a royal visit. And you can see that this coin, this is beautiful. Look at all that detail in the hair. This is an uncirculated coin for sure. We got 3 of them. And this got some signs of tarnishing. But again, these are all generally in nice condition. There's a little something. I don't know if that's on the plastic or if it's on the coin. I think it's on the plastic and it's starting to come off with my thumb. So I'm going to put these in some different flips, I think. But that's really good. Look at that. And then these two, we got 2 of this 1949. And this ship on here is called the Matthew. Beautiful looking commemorative coins. This has some kind of darkening, some odd toning on there. And then this last one is the most worn. And just before I turned the camera on, I just checked it for one thing. I don't have a coin that is known as an Arnprior coin. I'm going to put this under the scope and we'll take a look. This one here, you can see this one's been circulated. It is definitely more worn and got more scratches on it than the rest. But what we're looking at are these water lines at the front of the canoe. This is known as an Arnprior coin. There was a convention in Arnprior, Ontario, where some of these coins were handed out to participants, and it was noted that those coins didn't have the full water lines. There should be 4 water lines that go across right from the rim to the top of the tip of the canoe. And the Arnprior convention coins only had 1.5 or 2.5 water lines. So I pulled up the Saskatoon Coin Club website. This is a tremendous resource. Just a big thanks and kudos to this coin club for putting out some tremendous resources. This is incredible, but lots of great pictures, all of the die varieties you might be looking for, great diagrams. This is going to show the full water line. So we're seeing here, you'd see all the water lines touching the tip of the canoe. And then over here is the Arnprior variety, which is this 2.5 water line. It's just die polishing. It's like the 1990 Bear Belly Beaver and the nickel, But it got some attention when it was noted that a whole bunch of them in mint condition were handed out at this convention. That's why it got that name, the Arnprior variety. And here it is on this coin, and I've got it. The 1950 that I have in my collection does not have the short water lines like this. So even though it is a circulated coin, it's not in the best of condition, it's not nearly as nice as the rest of them, is a variety I didn't have. So that is pretty awesome. So onto the American stuff. We've got, pretty run-of-the-mill silver here, 1966, 40% Kennedy half dollar. So that is cool. And then, of course, we have a 1921 Morgan. This is the most plentiful of the Morgan silver dollars, the 1921. This one looks to be out of Philadelphia. So many, many millions of these minted, and this is not even necessarily in the best condition. It's not blast white, that's for sure. It's not terribly circulated, but it doesn't have that luster necessarily. Looks to actually have lots of great detail and a good strike. But still, even in terms of silver value, based on today's silver price, this is $58 of silver in Canadian dollars. So I got this for about $35. So that's a steal of a deal, at least as long as silver stays as high as it is right now. And last up on the big silver, this Universaro 1 troy ounce from 1972. And Numista is a great resource for these sorts of things. I just typed in the text on it, it brought it up. It is in fact 1 troy ounce of silver. And apparently this was a private issue by the Intermint of Colton, California. They made 2 million of these over 4 years in the 1970s. So 1 ounce of silver. And again, today, I just counted this, or I think Tim counted this when I bought this as $1 sort of in face. But an ounce of silver is worth $75 today. So that was a great deal. So a nice big silver bullion round. That's pretty awesome. Well, I'm sensing this video has been pretty long because I think I've gone into a lot of detail on some things. I hope you've enjoyed it, but for the sake of your attention span and the fact that I probably need to eat some dinner, I think we'll have to wait to get to these to another video and these as well and wrap it up here. But we got some old Canadian silver, Newfoundland, the United States, Canada, and some private issue stuff. Pretty awesome. I love getting junk silver. I love adding some of this silver to my stack. I love it when it's really old, and many of these are worth more than just their bullion value. They're highly collectible. These Newfoundland coins are really low mintage, and we got some that are in better than average condition, and we got some really nice commemoratives too. So really happy with this. I hope that you enjoyed looking at this silver purchase of mine. I really appreciate you watching. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, CAD Roll Hunter, please hit the button and subscribe. I'd really be happy about that. I think you'll be happy too when you get notified about all the videos that I have coming out. Sometimes they're coin roll hunting, sometimes it's collection purchases, sometimes it's junk silver, and I love getting junk silver when it's not junk at all. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. We'll see you again next time. The sponsors of today's video are Lighthouse Canada and the Charlton Press. Lighthouse Canada is the leading supplier of high-quality numismatic supplies in Canada, and the Charlton Press is the leading publisher of coin and paper money catalogs and price guides for Canadian collectors. Go check out their online stores today and use the exclusive discount code CRH20 for 20% off all your purchases.